Hey everyone again, for the people who are just joining us, my name is Ronnie. I am the head of the customer success team here at PlusThis, and I'm really excited that we're going to be running this webinar today with our friend Micah Mitchell. He is the CEO of Memberium, and he's been spending like about the last decade working with literally thousands of different membership sites and online course owners. So he's here to share his experiences and what that's all about. So Micah, if you're ready, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you. We're really excited for you to be here, so thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. I apologize for doing this. I'm going to just plug in this mic real quick. I was fiddling with it and kind of messed up and couldn't hear you. So let me do a quick sound check. One moment.
No problem at all. While we're waiting for Micah to do that, I would love everybody who's here to post in the chat who you are, where you're coming from, and what you hope to get out of this.
Cool, and I think I am ready. You guys hear me okay?
Hearing you good, yep.
All right, awesome. Yeah, and everybody, thank you so much for coming in. I'm gonna pull up a presentation here, and I am gonna dive kind of right into it for a couple of minutes. But if you have questions, comments, anything like that, please put it into the chat as we go. I am also going to give you a worksheet in just a moment. I'll put a link through the chat shortly that you can use to follow along and also to kind of figure out where you are. So to jump right into it, it's called the 4 stages of membership sites. And as Ronnie mentioned, I've been doing Memberium, but I've also been doing membership sites for a number of years before that on different platforms and, for different people, for myself as well. And the kind of sad truth of it is a lot of membership sites fail. So people fail because they're trying to deliver too much too soon. They fail because they're not very good at marketing and sales. Sometimes they can't keep their members, like they can get them, they just can't keep them. And other people have trouble seeing the big picture. They have trouble understanding how a membership site fits into the overall kind of strategy of their business. So we're going to cover a bunch of those things here. A lot of it's based on the Pareto Principle. So it's, that for many events, roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. You might know it as the 80-20 principle. But basically, if 20% of what you're going to do is going to get most of the results, this is all about focusing on that 20%. So the 4 stages, we're just going to jump through them real quick. Stage 1 of a membership site is infancy. And what this looks like, you might be here, you might have been through this, obviously, if you're down the road, but it's from 0 to 10 members billing per month, or from 0 to 10 one-time purchases per month. So some people build courses, some people do memberships. It's kind of semantics. To me, it's if you're selling info online, how many billings per month are you generating? That'll kind of tell you if you're in this stage. And in stage 1, infancy, the big problem here is a lot of people don't know what they're doing. The big challenge is you have to build the site, you have to build a sales page, you have to build an order form. So it's a lot of implementation and content creation, things like that. But the big opportunity is if you can create a basic site and a basic sales message that works, that you can get founding members with, then you can prove your concept. So stage 1 in infancy, we'll go through some more of the recommendations, but just to jump ahead, stage 2 is childhood. And in stage 2 in childhood, this is from 10 to 100 members billing per month, or one-time purchases per month. So in childhood, the big problem is you don't have enough members yet, and it's not really clear if there's a good business here. So even if you can sell to a few people and get a couple people going, maybe that's all there is. And so in stage 2, you want to focus on sales. And the big challenge is finding enough leads and learning to convert them into customers, just basic marketing and sales. But the opportunity is if you can create sales momentum, meaning if you can implement some systems which, everyone on this call using PlusThis, you're into automation. So if you can do that stuff, you can create a flow of customers. So that's the big opportunity, is create kind of an automated sales engine in this stage. Stage 3 is adolescence. And this is when you have from 100 to 500 members billing per month or one-time purchases per month. And in this stage, usually the problem is you're losing too many members. So as you start to get more members, you're also maybe losing some that are a little older. The big challenge is improving your onboarding process and your members' experience so you can retain people longer, because the opportunity is if you can improve your retention, if you can improve how long people stay around and how many payments they give you, even by a single month, then basically you've just increased your revenue, let's say per year, by a month's worth of payments times every member you have. So if you can increase that a few months, then you're really pushing up your revenue, obviously, also for future members. So stage 3 in adolescence, again, it's all about kind of retention, and we'll review these in a second. But stage 4 maturity, this is the one where I said people, they don't always understand how this fits, how a membership or a course fits strategically into the rest of a business, because a lot of people doing courses are service providers. That's how they got good at something. So they're kind of transitioning. So in the maturity stage, this is when you have 500 members or more billing per month, or one-time purchases per month. So when your site gets rather large, then here's problem is sales can slow down. Maybe you've tapped all the markets you can. And also at the same time, since you have more members, churn becomes even more significant. So the challenge here is actually creating new products to sell to existing members. And the big opportunity is learning to cross-sell, to upsell, and essentially to increase the lifetime value of all of your members to improve profitability. Now, at the beginning, when I said most of the problems, most memberships fail, it's because people are not doing the right thing for their stage. They're not doing the 20% that at their stage is going to really get them the results. So in infancy, you really want to be focused on the basics, and we are going to get into more specifics. I know this is kind of high level for a minute, but in childhood, it's all about sales. And I found that stage 2 is kind of a problem for people, because a lot of people, being subject matter experts, they'd rather focus on the content and the experience and making a good product. And sometimes that can be an excuse to avoid doing selling activities. So stage 2 is pretty difficult for some people. Stage 3 in adolescence, from 100 to 500 members, it's just about keeping more of your people. It's about retention. And then in stage 4 maturity, that's when you want to create more products. So this is going to vary. I'm giving specific numbers, but obviously based on the industry, meaning if your product sells for $100 a month versus $10 a month versus $1,000 a month, maybe the number of members is going to change. It's also based on your experience. It's based on your budget, your team. So the activities that you're going to do in building a membership site, or building a course, or making money selling information, it is going to vary. But these stages that we're talking about, these are good indicators of, hey, when you're at about this point, you're going to start to experience these things. So we're going to go into some solutions for it. But before we do, just a quick pop quiz. So if you guys can put into the chat in the meeting here, which stage would you add a community to? So, just your best guess, 1, 2, 3, or 4, which stage do you think you would add a community to your site? I'll give that just a minute here.
So we've got a couple answers here, and I'll let people have a little bit more time to answer before I start shouting them out.
I'm just going to minimize this to see if I see the chat update.
Looks like the majority of the people in here are putting stage 2, so the childhood stage. A couple stage 3s, a couple stage 1s, but the majority of people are saying stage 2.
All right, cool. So I got you. Sorry, guys. The majority of people, it's not stage 2. And that's what most people think is, oh, I need a community in order to sell. But the truth is, you need to sell in order to have enough people to start a community. So really the answer here is stage 3. So thank you guys for guessing. And those of you who guessed stage 3, you're right. A community is useful in keeping members. A community can be a selling point, but this is why I'm saying a lot of people get stuck in stage 2. Instead of figuring out their sales message and working on their sales channels, they think, oh, well, I'll make more sales if I add more bells and whistles to my membership site. Now, I'm all about membership fanciness, and we are going to cover some cool things you can do, but this is where I'm saying a lot of people overbuild. So stage 2, you don't build. Community would go in stage 3. So which stage is another pop quiz question for everybody. Which stage would you add a mastermind group to? So those of you who know what a mastermind group is, obviously it's kind of an upsell. So what stage would you think? Sorry, when I mute, it moves my screen over. I'm trying to figure out how to change that option, but that's all right. So what have they got, Ronnie?
So we've got quite a few people saying stage 4. There's still a couple stage 2 sprinkled in, but looks like the consensus is 4 right now.
Okay, cool. And yeah, usually this one's pretty obvious. It is stage 4. So again, this is where people will see a guru up on stage and they'll think, oh, well, that guy's got an info product and he does an event and he has a mastermind group. I need to do what he's doing. I need to build my info empire, I think was even a program at one point. But understanding that they didn't build all that at once. They built this piece, and then that next piece made sense, and then the next piece. And not that you absolutely have to go in that order, but again, we're trying to focus on where you're most likely to get the results. So another thing here, not just a mastermind group, but another kind of thing that people will do is they'll start their membership site and they'll have, like gold, silver, bronze, platinum, diamond, all these different membership levels, which kind of muddies it up. So what I'm talking about here is I'm talking about focusing until you get to maturity if possible, and then building more products. Because typically, let's take a mastermind group, for example. If you did try to sell a mastermind group to your audience in childhood, so you have 10 to 100 members of your membership site, and you go offer them a mastermind group, which I'm guessing is going to be, a number of times higher in price. So the membership might be $97 a month, the mastermind might be $500 or $1,000 a month. It's not likely you're going to get a big enough group. In adolescence, you might, but in maturity with 500 members, if you offer a mastermind group to them, you're going to be able to price it how you want. You're going to be able to have members apply and only select the people who are going to make the experience great. And you're going to have a very successful mastermind group, or at least you're more likely to have it in maturity because you're going to have a wider group to draw from. So hopefully that makes sense to people. But that's one of the disciplines you might say is kind of holding until you get further down to do certain activities. So some strategies for each stage. In stage one of the main strategies is doing a smaller course first. So if you're just getting started and it feels kind of overwhelming and you're thinking, oh, there's all these best practices, just forget all that garbage and do a small, simple course first. Even if it's 1 video, 3 videos, even if you're only going to charge like $10 for it, it doesn't really matter. Doing this is kind of a test. It's a pilot, and it can save you a lot of money. One of the worst things that I've ever seen, and kind of, been around, and we had a group who, I should say a couple, who was in our mastermind group, and this is years ago, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and they built this membership site, and they would never test it out. They kept saying, well, we're selling it to the corporate market, and that's a tight-knit circle, and if it's not perfect from the get-go, it's going to get a bad name, and people aren't going to like it, blah, blah, blah. Well, to make a long story short, they built this big, amazing site, and they never made a sale because they were trying to sell to corporate executives training on how to improve their career. Ultimately, corporate executives weren't shopping for that type of training. And what they found is that any executive who, like any training and development in that area, typically they expected it to be provided by the company. So they were just so off in their market, and they would have known that so much earlier and been able to course correct and probably do something that would have worked. Instead, they wasted about $100,000 between all the software, hosting, specialists, consultants. Everything that they did to create this thing was a waste. So start small, test it out. Another really useful way is to record a webinar series. And I won't have a story about every single one of these, I promise, but a funny one here is a couple of years ago, I thought, well, I'm going to revive my Infusionsoft training product. And I was talking to a friend about it, and they said, well, try to sell it as a webinar series first. Like, see if you can sell 9 webinars or whatever on how you're going to teach this. And so I put up the sales page, and the old way would have been I would have built the whole course and then tried to sell it. So instead, I put up the sales page. I was going to set up the GoToWebinars as soon as I got started getting sales. I never got any sales, so I never built that course, and I dodged that bullet, right? Another great way to get past stage 1 is to record a live event, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but it's an easy way to force content to be created quickly. So some other things you can do if you're thinking of a course is you can test a free version of it just by blogging on those subjects, making videos, maybe putting them on YouTube, doing even free webinars, whatever you can do. And then if there's a really strong response, then go make a membership. And I sell membership software, so it's like, of course, I'd love you to just start a membership and start paying me, but it's not really going to help you if there's not a good connection there. So in stage 2, where it's all about sales, people will think, well, I am selling. I have a sales page. I have an order form. What I'm saying is change your mediums. If you have a sales letter, add a sales video, a webinar, try your membership as an upsell to something else, anything else. Try it through affiliates, try it from stage. And one of the most overlooked things is just try to sell your membership to existing clients by the phone. So call them up and say, hey, I've recorded these videos. I want to sell them for $97 a month. You know, is that something that you would want to be a part of? Can I add you to the program, whatever? If not, why not? You're going to learn a lot more there than you are in A/B split testing headlines using Google Ads, right? So it's a quick way to figure out the message, to kind of hone it in, and then try all the other mediums you can. Like I said, if you're video, go letter. If you're letter, go video, and all that good stuff. In stage 3, when you're trying to retain people, gamification is kind of a, you know, a buzzword. It's exciting right now. Really what that's talking about is engagement. It's saying, how do we get them to really pay attention, to watch more, you know, when they're done with one, to go to the next instead of go on to a different activity. And we will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Community is great because sometimes people will stay, they'll be retained as a member just because they like being able to ask the community. And Digital Marketer Labs is a good example of that. A lot of people I know say, well, you know, the content's great, but I've been through it and I might go through it again, but I really stay and keep paying because I love the community. Another good thing that you can do in stage 3, if you can get the clients to have some sort of early buy-in, there's a lot of ways to do that, then they'll stick longer. You know, whether that's them committing to a goal, having an accountability partner, giving feedback on the course, whatever it is, if you can get them to interact with you, give feedback, you know, sign up for something, then you're going to keep them a lot longer. And one of the biggest things that people miss here is that onboarding is critical. So even before you try all these strategies, you know, saying, well, we have someone in month 5, and how do we keep them till month 6? Way before that, when the first, you know, when they first come to the site, the onboarding process of a new member is going to determine their retention much more than some sort of save strategy that you employ down the road. So at stage 3, you can reevaluate and try to nail your onboarding so that as your funnels, your automated sales machine that you've created, keep sending you members, then they're being onboarded properly, you know, then you continue to create a good product, but you're kind of linking it together so that revenue stream goes further, and also so the customer's experience obviously is better because you're only going to get paid if it's great. And that kind of brings me to number 4, which is if their experience has been great so far, now you have the opportunity to upsell them, to cross-sell them. Obviously, if their experience hasn't been great so far, you're not going to get a huge response. So at this point, you can do advanced content, you know, deeper on the subjects you're already teaching and charge more for that. You can do group coaching, which is a little bit more interaction, but not exactly one-on-one interaction. And I'll talk in a moment about ways you can, you know, really do a good job of one-on-one interaction within a membership community. And then there's a mastermind, obviously, taking a very small group of people and spending a lot more time with them, and then any other products. And so developing products is part of this. The other part is the marketing machinery of saying, let's put a one-click upsell in the funnel. So after they buy, we make them give them an opportunity to sign up and go to the next level right away. Or the in-site upsell, which is when they're in my site consuming the content, let's present an upsell to them at that point that they can upgrade from gold to whatever. And then obviously email campaigns, reaching out and trying to upsell them as well. So at a high level, those are some strategies for each part. And what I want to do real quick is I want to give you guys this worksheet. I'm going to put this through the chat and hopefully everyone will get it. Maybe Ronnie, if you could pass that on. I think the way I'm set up as a panelist, I can't send to everybody.
Yeah, let me go ahead and copy that and I can send it off. While I'm doing that too, Micah, we did have a question. Julius is interested in how many products would you recommend he get started with before jumping into this?
So yeah, that's a great question. And maybe Julius, if you could share a little bit about your niche or what you're trying to teach. And while you're doing that, I'll answer it in general and say, and you know, explain why I ask that. If you have a ton of content, you know, just gobs and gobs, if it's a subject matter that there's a lot to talk about, then having multiple products might make more sense. Initially still, I would try to sell a core product, like try to get one product as high as you can in user count. Because for any given product, you know, your costs are locked in with the first member. If you have one member, all of your costs, they have to exist to serve that member. Every other member's profit. So if you can get more sales on one product, then it makes more sense to put your effort into that. But like I said, depending on your subject matter, there are a lot of situations where it's like, well, having a beginner product and an advanced product and having those be separate does make sense. Even in that case, I would say you want to start with the beginner product. And the reason I say that is if you put out a beginner product, usually the beginner market is the bigger market. So you're going to know sooner if there's a good response. Also, if you sell a beginner product and all the beginners buy it, then when you make an advanced product, those beginners who took your first product may be interested in the advanced product. So it's kind of like a logical flow to the next one. So did he mention what he's in, Ronnie?
I haven't seen that come through. Oh, wait, here we go. So they're selling about 9 products and are doing them step by step. So they have a few getting started products, which they upsell into the next ones currently. Also,
Okay.
I've posted the link in our chat. So it's going to be different from the questions tab, everybody. In the chat box, you should see the link to this worksheet.
Cool. Yeah, and Julius, if you've already got the products, then there's no harm in selling them. In fact, it's good to list those products maybe in a grid on a page where when the member comes in, and consumes one, they can buy the others. That's great. There's no problem there. It's that if you were just getting started, you wouldn't want to build all 9 before starting to sell 1 or 2. So I think if you're already doing it, no problem. You can just continue to do that. I would, if I were in your situation, I was selling 9, I would be trying to figure out, which beginner product is the strongest if I have multiple beginner products, and how can I move more of my marketing capital toward whichever one is the strongest versus sharing it, sharing the marketing expense and all the expenses evenly across products that aren't evenly, working or profitable. So hopefully that makes sense and is helpful.
I also have another question here, Micah, and you can choose to answer it now, or maybe you have it later on in your slides. But Laura's asking, what are your recommendations for best onboarding practices?
I will touch on a few in just a moment. Yeah, great question. And let me cover it in just a moment as we get to it, because I'll have a slide to go along with it. What I wanted to show everybody is this worksheet. Hopefully everyone has got it through the chat. It's, there's a little welcome, whatever, and then it kind of covers some of the things we've talked about. But really, what I want you to focus on is my membership site stage. So if you would just put down the date and your site name, the member count that you currently have, and then what stage you're in. And this is just to self-identify. You don't have to share it. It's totally fine. But if you can write that stuff down, then what we're going to try to do is I do go through specific recommendations, like for onboarding, for example, in just a moment. I'd like you just to kind of be aware of, okay, even though I'm interested in onboarding, what stage am I in? And so if I do listen to the stuff on onboarding, maybe I'm going to prioritize that work lower than the stuff that's going to apply to the stage that I am in. So if you're in stage 1 or 2, you can obviously take the onboarding best practices into mind as you're going. You don't want to leave anything out if it's easy to stick in, but you just don't want to obsess about it. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. But like I said, that's really all this is about. And then you can brainstorm some ideas. So as we go, you can make notes in here. This is, you can click and type in this PDF, and then you can print it, you can save it. You can also print it out and write on it if you want. But ultimately, I'd like you to try to identify your top 3 priorities. And even if they're not in the right stage, that's totally fine. You know your business better than I do. But these are just kind of principles for you to consider as you're deciding these things. And then at the very bottom, and this is my lovely copywriter out in England, there's a declaration here. So you can put those 3 down, and then you can kind of commit yourself to doing those, post this on the wall. That's the purpose of this, so that you do focus and take advantage of the 80-20 rule, because like I said, it does take some discipline. So that's what that is. You guys have it there. Hopefully it makes sense. I'm going to bounce back to the presentation and then dive into some, deeper recommendations. So first of all, the live event thing, and that's a funny old pixelated image of me in a live event, but there's, I touched on it earlier, but when you're getting started, starting out with a live event's great because you can establish credibility. There's something called a credibility shot where instead of just the presenter on camera or like slides playing and a voice over the slides, having an audience watching a presenter on stage is going to automatically lend quite a bit of credibility to that person. So, and seeing them ask questions, seeing them applaud, whatever. So a live event's great for that reason. As I said before, it's an easy way to create a lot of content fast. If you just record that event and you're forced to get up there and speak, you're going to churn out several hours of content. And in case it hasn't come through in my language, sometimes I'm a procrastinator when making content. So this may be only me, but yeah, doing an event is a great way to push it out like that. You can also get paid to create your content, meaning if you sell tickets to the event, or maybe you pre-sell memberships and say, you know, members get a free ticket to the event and then the event recording's in the membership site. So you can get paid to create your content in this situation, which is cool. There's also user-generated content. If the people are in the audience asking questions and you're running microphones around, that can be really valuable within a membership site. And then one of the big ones is other speakers. So when you do a live event, it's so easy to invite other people to come in and share their expertise. And, you know, I've never run into one who's like, don't record me. So they're fine, typically in my experience, being recorded, and you can have that as part of your event recording. So you not only get your content out, but you get a bunch of other people's content added into the mix too, which is, as you'll see as we go on, having more content is great. You can use that in a lot of different ways to drive more memberships and all that stuff. So some other goodies to include, I mentioned that I'd talk about how you can interact with your customers. So this touches on that, but with a membership site, with a course, one of the things you can always do is also provide, discounts. You can decide if you want to do this or not. You don't have to, because I did have somebody go out and do this and say, well, I did it because you told me to. So it's not always proper, but you could easily say gold members get 25% off or platinum members get 50% off. If you have other products and services, that can be nice. But really the middle one, so office hours and webinars. A lot of times in the past, if somebody had a monthly membership program, they would also have a monthly webinar. And that can get old really quick. I know from my own personal experience, after doing, 2 years solid of monthly webinars, I just totally ran out of things to say on that topic. And so then the quality declines. So committing to a monthly webinar may not be your shtick. If not, office hours are great. That's where you basically just bring people into a call and they can ask whatever questions they want. Some people do provide content on office hours, but you don't have to. For example, I do some live calls which are just Q&As. I never make a presentation. People just ask questions beforehand, and then I get on and I answer the questions. The bottom bullet here, this though, it may not be something you've heard about. So critique certificates or 911 calls. Critique certificate is where with the membership, let's say they sign up for a monthly membership, you say, okay, after you've passed month 4 and after you've gone and done the work, gone and done whatever it is we're telling you to do or teaching you to do in this course, then you've earned a critique certificate, which entitles you to have your work critiqued by me, the guru. And so what they get is they get one-on-one personal attention with, the person who they think is the expert and they want to learn from. And what you get is you get a serious student who actually did the work, watched the videos, and frankly isn't going to come on the call and ask you a stupid question. Because whenever I've given away a free time with a membership, like, hey, when you join as a free member, you get an hour consultation with me, they're pretty much asking me the questions that are in the videos, usually within the first few videos of the course. So you don't want to just give them time. You want to make them earn the time by doing something and taking the action doing the work. So this protects your time as the teacher, but it also makes their experience better because they had an incentive to watch the videos, to put it into action. Now they can get feedback on the action they took. They're going to be on a much better course. So these critique certificates can really help the clients and also can protect and position your time. Hey, my time's not available for sale. You can't just call me. That's not part of this membership. But you do get this critique certificate where if you do these things, this is what you get. And then the other is the 911 call, which is kind of a variation where you say, hey, look, if you are a VIP or if you pay yearly or if you've been a member for at least 12 months or whatever, you earn one 911 call. And that entitles you, if you have a huge opportunity or a huge problem and you really just need help, you need that consultation, you can change in this 911 call and I'll jump on for 20 minutes with you on a Zoom or webinar, phone call or whatever. So you allow them a way to cash in a 911 call to get that one-on-one with you. But again, you position it like, hey, this is a one-time thing and it's only under these conditions. It's only for people who've maybe paid this much money, that kind of a thing. So good ways to position your time without giving it away. Another thing that usually isn't considered with a membership, at least these days, is delivering something physical. So GKIC is a great example of this. I get every month a magazine, I get an interview transcript, and a swipe file. I've actually never, and I really mean this, I've never been into their membership site. I've never been to the online portion of what I'm paying for, and I'll never quit because I get that stuff in the mail. And it doesn't cost them much more to do. It's the same content they're putting online. They're just also transcribing it and getting it out physically. So that's a great thing to include. So to the question about onboarding. So this is the biggest key to retaining members, because a lot of membership sites, when the person goes in, what they see is either a wall of content, like walking into a library and it's like, well, which way do I go? Or they see a maze where they really don't even know the difference between the options. So here's what you want to do. You want to first of all have a one-time welcome video. Some people do have terms and conditions with this, which is, hey, watch this video and click the button that you accept the terms and conditions. You don't have to have them accept terms and conditions, but some people do. The real reason for the welcome video is to kind of reaffirm, you know, why they bought the course, what they're going to get out of it, and how valuable it's going to be for them to take action. And then you give them a tour of the course, kind of saying, hey, here's where everything is, welcome, you're going to love it, all that. And then you tell them what you want them to do right away. And that brings me to the next thing, which is the quick start. So either in the welcome video or right afterward, you say, hey, look, here's the #1 thing you need to do as a new member, or the top 3 things you need to do as a new member. Whatever it is, you're trying to get them a quick win in a lot of cases, and you're also trying to get them committed to the program. So you want to get them to set a goal, maybe like, hey, here's what you need to do. You need to set a goal, and then you need to go watch this video and do the exercise. Just do that and then come back. Like, you want to give them short, bite-sized but impactful things to do. And even that might be too much. You might just say, hey, all you need to do is just watch this video and do this worksheet. That's it. And then afterward, make them set a goal. I don't know what's best for you, but the idea is you direct them from the very beginning. You can give them an overview and a tour so they know that they got what they paid for. You're not locking them out of stuff if you've got more stuff in there, but then you focus them and you say, look, this is where you want to go. Now, if you're serving different markets, you might even give them a little bit of a survey first, or have them click, you know, pull them to a screen. Maybe in the welcome video it says, below this video are 3 options. You can click beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And if they click one of those, for those of you using a CRM, you can tag them that they clicked that thing, and then start feeding them the content that's going to correspond with their skill level, right? Another thing with onboarding, I touched on this, but I'll dive into it more. You want to ask for feedback early. So you want to say to them, you know, tell us what you want in this membership site. And then they're going to say, well, this is what I'm looking for, or I wish it had this, or I wish it had that. That feedback is great for you to make changes, but it also, even before you make the changes, commits them more, because now they are part of the creation of this program in their mind. So you can ask them for feedback right away. You can get them to customize their experience. That's why I said beginner, intermediate, advanced, set their own goals. Simple, easy to understand example, let's say it's like fitness or weight loss. They can go in and they can enter, hey, here's my weight now, here's my goal, here's my time frame, whatever you want them to do, right? One thing that ties into this, or is kind of an extension of this, is called the endowed progress effect. And this is where if you provide some type of artificial advancement toward a goal, the person is going to be more motivated to complete the goal. So what I mean is something like this. So if you just got a car wash stamp card and there were no stamps on it, that card is garbage, right? It's not worth anything. But if you get one with 2 stamps on it, even if they pre-stamped it, it's at least worth more than the blank one. And that's the basic concept, right? A little chintzy, but the idea is it reduces the amount of perceived work, because in this case, I only have to do 80% of the work to get the free car wash. So there's also something called task tension, which is where started but unfinished tasks are thought of more than those that are not started. So when they come into the site, for example, you can have something that says, hey, you know, you've already checked off this box, which is your first login to the site. Good job. So they're already going, right? They're 10% of the way through whatever the first part is, and then they got to go do whatever else. So just an idea if you can work it in that is very powerful. Some things on the fun side of membership sites. So there's something kind of new coming out called, I would call it theming. I'm not sure if they even call it that, but the Great E-Course Adventure is the name of a site. It's a membership site, and it's a great example of this. I think these guys are kind of the pioneers in it, as far as I know, where they actually grew their beard out and their hair out, these 2 guys, and they did it in front of a green screen. And you know how people use the metaphor of, oh, we're going to take you on a journey as you learn this information, and we're going to hike up this mountain to these base camps and reach the summit, right? Well, they took that and they, like I said, used green screens to create outdoor scenes. They dressed in full, backpacking and climbing gear and walking sticks. And like I said, grew their hair out. And so through the course, as you go through and you learn with them, the scene is changing as they're going up the mountain. Their hair and beards are getting longer. They're in character, in costume, on a green screen, and they're having fun. And it makes it really engaging for the user. And I think they're ahead of their time, but in a couple of years, probably a lot of these training sites are going to be much more, I guess you'd say, entertaining, a little bit that whole edutainment idea of having some education and some entertainment. With technology now, it's getting a lot closer, and they've done other themes. So that one's like a mountain climbing theme. They have another one that's the magician theme. What's the other one? A star, not quite Star Trek, but they're in space, space themed one. So theming is really great. And then gamification that I mentioned earlier, here's a good example of that. So my son, we put him on Khan Academy because we do homeschool for our 3 boys. And when we put him on Khan Academy, we just wanted him to learn about, basically simple math. We weren't wanting him to go into all this other stuff, but he ended up going in and earning all these meteorite badges. So this is kind of a backed up look where the top section is the badges he earned, and then below that, some other possible badges. But he earned all those badges without us asking him to. He wasn't even supposed to do this. And this is a number of years ago. I think he was, let's see, when is the date on that? 2015. So he would have been only 10. And the same thing that works for kids works for adults. So this site, this gamified site that kids are going to learn, and we don't even need to tell them, because as they're going through it, they're trying to earn the badges, they're trying to earn points, they're trying to go on these little adventures. Now, here's one of my old sites. This is one of my old Infusionsoft training sites. You can see I'm doing a great job, right? I got the videos, links to the videos, the time, the title. This is that page if you back out and look at it. That's ridiculous. Who wants to go to that page? And this is only module 1 of 12 modules of crap that I used to have. So that's why I'm saying this was the old approach of, hey, I'm giving you more content. There's more value here. The new approach is that you gamify it. You can use quizzes. One big thing is people are always trying to gauge how much of a video was watched. And, we do that with PlusThis for some of our marketing videos. In a membership site, you can also quiz them. So instead of saying, well, I need to know if they watched 50% of the video, what you really want to know in that situation is maybe, did they understand what I said? Can they answer a basic question? They watch the video. Afterwards, you say, hey, is it better to go higher or lower in this situation? If they understood the video and the concept, they'll get the question right. They move on. And if not, then you start to get that feedback loop of, hey, maybe I didn't explain this correctly. You can fix that as a course creator. But quizzing is great. Points are awesome. Like I said, my kids, as they watch videos and as they answer problems, they get points. Points are kind of instant gratification. So in your membership site, somebody could come in and watch the first video and get 5 points. And then you could say, hey, when you get to whatever it is, 1,000 points, maybe you get a 911 call with me, or you get a critique certificate. So the badges are kind of interesting because kids like badges. My son liked those cool little meteorite badges, and he liked the different types of meteorites, but it's also for the professional. And I'll talk more about that in just a second, but this is the same thing that works for kids, works for adults. Ordering the content, this is part of gamification, where you're giving them the right content, by level in the right order. So there are some subjects where you can just pick and choose, let's say cooking, for example. You can just go to a recipe, learn how to make it, and make it. There are other things like, let's say, software, setting up Infusionsoft or setting up ActiveCampaign or a piece of software where you do have to set up some basic settings first, and then go set up this other thing next, and then go, there's an order to it, right? And so you putting your content in order makes a big difference. The last one, throttling, some people will let their customer in, and here's all the content, have at it. Other people will say, well, I want to drip it. And the problem is when people try to drip content for billing reasons. And what I mean is they'll say, well, I want to only give out the content month by month because they're going to pay month by month, and I don't want someone to log in and steal all my content. I've been doing this for a long time. A lot of people have brought that up as a reason to not, give the value that they could. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with dripping. What I'm saying is don't do it for billing reasons. You should drip content because it's a better user experience, meaning if you give it to them all at once and it's overwhelming, don't do that. Give them just this piece first and tell them, hey, if I gave you all this stuff, you would get confused because you have to know this piece first. So go through this. Once you're done with it, then you're going to go to the next step, then the next step. And for example, in my site, I do a mixture. So I force people to go through the first 2 modules fully, and then the other 8 are totally open. They go in whatever order they want. But it's like they need that baseline before continuing. Now, one example that puts these 2 ideas together, the ordering and the throttling, is I have a client who does tennis, and he has multiple sites. He actually did a site per, I don't know what you'd call it, but like for the forehand, for the backhand, for the serve, for the return. So a separate membership site for each one. And in the sites, when someone would be going through and they'd be going too fast, we had the ability to say, you know, hey, we're making you go 1 step at a time. But if you try to go through 5 steps in a day, we can identify that and we can interrupt you and say, look, you couldn't possibly have gone out and done the homework. You couldn't possibly have gone out on the court and hit 200 forehands and 200, you know, whatevers. You need to take a minute, stop studying, go out on the court, practice, then come back and study. So this is where I say some of these things, you know, people will use them as kind of marketing gimmicks or ways to extract value from customers. I would look at these things as ways to improve the customer experience, and that's still going to benefit you. It's still selfish, you know, in my case, I'm still selfishly implementing things that are good for customers because ultimately I'm going to make more by doing so, and it'll be more sustainable, easier to sell, all those good things. So my site that was really ugly and terrible, this is what it turned into. So this ugly thing here with these videos, a version of it later was this, where each piece, you know, they can go through. That blue bar is a little progress bar. It's kind of hard to tell from here, but then when you go into it, you know, here's the lessons, here's how far you are through it with the progress bar. On the right side is kind of the overall how far you are through the course. So it gave them a sense of perceived progress that they're seeing these bars move, and helped them identify where they are. And this was a good example of something that's perfectly linear. They could not skip anything. They had to go from video 1 to video whatever, 100, in perfect order. And over there on the bottom right, you can see under the master section, it says must finish section above first. So it's like, here's the sections. You can't get into them if you don't do the thing above. And in each section, like in the build section right now, until e-commerce setup is done on the right, they can't go to the next one. Now, this isn't what the site looks like today, but just wanted to give you kind of a visual. So ROE is a term my friend Mike Weiss came up with, at least I think he created. I don't know if he heard it from somebody, but it stands for return on education. And, you know, when people used to buy a course or buy information, they may not even open it. They might have opened it but not gotten through it. They might implement it and not get any results. There's so many things between them and being successful with that course, getting a good return on their investment. But with the technology today, it's really easy to give people a return on their education because you can have a certification course. So I picked a couple silly certifications here just to kind of show it doesn't matter what you're doing, you could certify people in it. Most things are not regulated in this way. I'd imagine if it's, you know, something accounting related or maybe something medical related, a certification, you'd want to check into that. But I like the bottom left one for Salesforce. If you're not getting certified, you're certifiably nuts. It's a lot of people are big into certifications now. Certifications badges are kind of a similar thing. It's where if your user can come in and go through your membership site and not just get the value of the content, but actually become certified or earn a badge, then they can list that on their website, they can list that on their resume, they can list it on their social media profiles, they can use it in sales presentations. I was at an event recently and somebody came up and said, hey, I'm the only person in the world who's certified in this thing and this thing. And that was like their whole pitch was, I'm certified in these 2 things. So if you want those 2 things, I'm the expert. Not that that's the best pitch. I'm just saying that the use of certifications is becoming, you know, more prominent. A couple other things that you can do, and this one is specifically with Memberium. There may be some other platforms as well, but you can multiply the value of your membership with something called parent-child, which is where the member who buys can add sub-members under them. So this is valuable in the case maybe if you're selling to a family where the parents buy, they can add their kids, or if you're selling to a business where the business owner buys, they can add their staff. And you can even, you know, adapt this where the different members of the staff can get different training. So the obvious thing is that this can make the value of the site seem many times greater because you're not getting one membership, you're really getting membership for several people. It's great for business to business because it can help them scale and help them with consistency, meaning if part of your pitch to a business owner could be, hey, if you take our training, you can add your whole team to it. Now everyone on your team is experiencing the same training. You can grow with this. Training costs are down because they're going through this. Everyone's doing it the same way. It's consistent. And also you as the admin, you can be notified when they're taking quizzes. So you can see, hey, this person is passing all the quizzes and going through the training. This other person is failing all the quizzes, or this other person's not even taking the quizzes, right? So you can kind of see if people are really doing the training. Like I said, it's good for families or teams. Sometimes it's the coach who buys and adds their players. But the cool thing here, if you think of the gamification where the user is tracking their way through a site, the cool thing with parent-child is each user is tracked individually. So the problem is that if I were to buy something and then share it with 3 members of my team and they're all passing off quizzes and marking things complete, I don't know what things I've maybe watched or which quizzes I've taken or whose scores are which. But with the parent-child add-on, they are all actual separate member accounts and all their progress is tracked individually. So it keeps that very clean. And like I said, it can give the admin some insight as they get notifications on the quizzes. One of the things that we touched on early, and I was kind of, really trying to caution people against doing too early, is building a community. Now, even if you do build a community, the biggest key here is keeping this simple. And I've done case studies with many successful membership sites. They've all kept their community simple. They've all refined it and trimmed off some features. Nobody is saying, hey, the more ways I can give my audience to interact with me and each other, the better. Because the problem there is then they don't know, well, do I send a private message? Do I post in the forum? Do I go out to Facebook? Do I, which channel do I communicate through? So you want to keep it simple with your community. One kind of ninja trick is you can sell several lifetime memberships to limit early churn. And what I mean there is if you're going to have a community, you could, for example, say, hey, the monthly price of this program is $50, but for a limited time, we're going to let people in at $50 lifetime member. And then those people who buy that, they're going to love you, love your brand. They're not going to leave. They're going to stay in the community and help other members as they come in, through the subject matter. So you'll have kind of a committed base in your community by selling some lifetime memberships up front to front load it. Another cool thing you can do is you can plan constant updates from the top. So I was doing a case study with a lady and they had a fairly small user base, but their community was really active. As we were going through the case study, it was popping up saying, so-and-so did this and so-and-so posted that. And so I asked why it was so active. And she said, well, my husband planned for the first 90 days, I can't remember if it was 90 or 100, but to be in the community every day, posting something small and driving the conversation. And so that's what he did for the first while is he interacted in the community every day. So of course the community got used to interacting every day in there. And so then as he kind of backed away from it a little bit and started interacting less frequently, they were already used to going in and saying hi to each other and asking each other questions. So stirring it up. And by the way, the middle one, I have a friend in Australia who did that. He sold a ton of lifetime memberships for the same amount as the monthly and preloaded his membership site and just killed it. Like it made the community way different. So one of the last tips here, because I know I've been going forever, and then we'll jump into some questions, is feeding the beast. Now, if you've done all this stuff, if you have a good site, right, it's gamified, you got a community, you've got all these things, you can really leverage that with a couple of tricks. So we have something in Memberium called Google First Click, and there's also a Facebook crawler. But Google First Click is where, let's say you have 100 membership videos, and if you put them in a membership site, they're going to be locked away and no one can see them unless they have access, and you think that's good. Well, it's good, except that also Google cannot access them. Those 100 pieces of content you made are not being indexed. You're not getting any SEO value for them. So if you turn on Google First Click, it can then index all those pages, and it will let someone who's searching on Google get the first click for free. And what it means is if they click over from Google, we'll ignore the membership protection and let them have one piece of content for free. The idea is to get them kind of hooked to then where they go to the next piece of content, it says, well, it's not their first click from Google, therefore the regular membership protections apply. This person's not a member, let's show them a sales message. So the idea is you can get people over, engage them, and then cross-sell them into either a free or a paid membership. But really the idea is now your 100 videos that used to be in a vault and nobody knew about are 100 listings on Google. And there's a couple ways you can enhance that. You can create teasers out of your transcript. So let's say you have your videos, you can transcribe your videos and then take a portion of that transcription and make it public on your site. So the same membership page where your membership video is and is locked away to everyone but members, you can have a portion of the transcript of that video show to the search engine to attract people to your site and to your course. You can also, let's say you have 5-minute videos or 10-minute videos or something, you can create smaller videos out of those that cut to commercial. So let's take a 5-minute video where you're teaching something, show maybe 1 minute, 90 seconds of that, and then cut where you say, hey, sorry to interrupt, but the rest of this video is only for members. You can click below to learn more, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly, again, your 100 membership videos, which were locked away, are now 100 commercials that you can go out and put on YouTube, or you can list on the public side of your site or blog about, or whatever you want to do. So you can take then all that membership work you did, leverage it into marketing, and if you've done some of the other things correctly, it'll all kind of feed together and help you be successful. So I wanted to share some of these because if you use just a few of these together, then you're basically a membership genius. You're going to be ahead of the pack. As a review with the 4 stages, even if something sounded exciting, just kind of keep in mind where you are and what you should be focusing on. And otherwise, thank you guys for your attention. Ronnie, is there any questions or anything?
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Micah. Yeah, there are a couple questions that came through. We have one, the issue is that in stage 2, you can't spend too much in web development. So do you have any advice for people who are getting started in the stage 2 phase?
So I'm guessing they're saying it's hard to develop more sales pages and things like that.
Right. So they can't put too much in like web development and resources like that. So do you have any recommendations there?
Yeah, I would say depending on which CRM they're using. I want to answer this a little bit carefully so I don't sound too blunt, but
Sure.
In this case, in sales, it's in some cases going to take money to make money. But if you're talking about web development, I would just say go buy a tool. Go buy something like Infusionsoft, even if it seems expensive. It's got a landing page builder in there. You don't have to spend more money. You might just need to learn a little. But there are so many tools that make the technology not the issue, and they're pretty inexpensive. And the only reason I would say, sure, go ahead and splurge there, even if it seems reckless or you're putting, it's not something you feel like you can afford, is there's no other way that you're going to make more money out of your site, really, than spending on marketing and figuring that out. So I know it's kind of a harsh answer, but yeah, I mean, I would just buy a tool and do the best you can. I would not ever do custom development if you don't have thousands of dollars and a really good reason to do it. At least at that stage.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, you have to sometimes spend money to make money, right? And you got to look at it more as an investment rather than an expense. But awesome. So the next question is, how would you construct a drip feed plan?
So obviously it would depend on how much, but let's just say a simple example, like somebody wants to drip their content weekly for 52 weeks. Depending on the system you're using, there are a variety of ways to do it. So for example, LearnDash has something where you can specify dates, or you can say, well, this content's not available till 7 days after that content. But with Memberium, we really take a CRM first approach, and I imagine most of your customers as well take a CRM first approach, where I'd rather have that be controlled by tags in my CRM, tags and timers in my CRM, where I can change it, I can batch update it and things like that. So that's how I would do it. It sounds tedious, but I would, even in a 52-week situation, I would make 52 tags. Each tag releases a piece of content, because then you can drip it just exactly like we're saying. But what I've found many times from experience is that people will then want to say, well, if so-and-so signs up, give them all 52 weeks at once. And then all you have to do is have an action where you apply all 52 tags at once. So you can have one where you drop people in and it's dripped, one where you drop in and they get it all at once, one where you drop in and they get whatever you want. If you take the effort up front to tag it out properly, then you can deliver it in whatever way you want.
You had a follow-up to that, and I'm pretty sure you covered it, but just to be sure, he says, on a day-by-day, would you do this on a day-by-day basis, or would it depend more on the video content that is in this campaign?
I probably, in most cases wouldn't do day by day. It would depend a little on the video content, but I can't imagine a case where you do day by day forever. I could see day by day for like the first 3 days or 7 days, maybe even 14 days. Some people will do a challenge. So that might be a situation, what's the guy's name? Gary Ryan Blair, I think. He has a membership site, and I've been a part of it a couple times, called the 100-Day Challenge, where it's 100 drip days, 1 day at a time. So in that situation, yeah, it makes sense. Drip 1 per day for 100 days, but I can't imagine a perpetual ongoing membership where you're doing it daily.
Also, regarding the expenditure in stage 2 on the previous question, he added on to that. He's talking more specifically around gamification. In regards to gamification, do you have any good solutions, Micah, that might be more cost effective?
Oh, yeah. And so first of all, gamification is definitely a stage 3 thing, not 2. So once you're focused on retention, you would gamify, and I would highly recommend LearnDash. It's, even if you don't use Memberium, LearnDash is a great way to gamify a membership site. Really, really cost effective and does a ton.
Laura just wanted to tell you that you were amazing and that she learned a lot.
Thank you.
Was wondering if there's any contact info that we can include in case they have any follow-up questions. Would like your support email be the best way for them to reach out with any additional questions, Micah?
Yeah, that is a great way. And on that worksheet at the very bottom, there's a free ebook people can grab, and then there's also, a link over to our site to watch a demo of Memberium. But again, even if you're not using Memberium, you can always just email support@memberium.com or go to memberium.com/support, and you'll see more info and resources. We do office hours and things like that.
In regards to that, same thing. If you have any questions regarding PlusThis, feel free to email help@plusthis.com or plusthis.com/support, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions as well. There's a question about does Memberium interface well with Infusionsoft?
Yeah, Memberium was built specifically for Infusionsoft initially. I've used Infusion for about 12 years, so there's nothing really that works better with Infusionsoft, to be honest. If there was, I would tell you, but there's just not.
Perfect. There's a question about what other tools you currently use to help your business or membership.
Sure. So we use LearnDash that I mentioned earlier. We use PlusThis, Infusionsoft, a couple hosts like WP Engine. But as far as our marketing stuff goes, it's a lot of Infusionsoft, Memberium. I'm trying to think if we even have a real page builder. I think we might use Thrive Themes. So part of that, just to be clear, is there's a couple of people on our team who are pretty technical. So some things we build ourselves a little bit or work around without needing a solution. But yeah, that's what we're mostly into.
Awesome. I'm not familiar with this software, but you might be, Micah. How does Memberium compare to Wishlist? Are you familiar with Wishlist?
Wishlist is, yeah, I'm really familiar with Wishlist. In fact, Tracy, who owns it, doesn't live far from me, and we hang out all the time because we've been friends forever before I did membership stuff anyways. So he would probably tell you this himself also. If you're using Infusionsoft, Memberium makes more sense. If you're using something else, Wishlist probably makes more sense. And I would totally agree that, yeah, it basically, how to put it, Wishlist was built as a general system, and then they had an integration to Infusionsoft added on afterward. Memberium was built only for Infusionsoft. And even today, although we have a separate version that runs on ActiveCampaign, the Memberium that we run on Infusionsoft is still all pure Infusionsoft. We started a totally separate batch of code to go after other CRMs. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The main one is that it keeps it very small. Since this is hosted on your site, you want that. You want your site to be quick and responsive and all that. Memberium's been used by all the biggest marketers, Ryan Dice, digital marketer, the product launch formula, Jeff Walker, all those guys. So it's just honestly good software, good integration if you're using Infusionsoft. If not, there's tons of options.
Awesome. So Barbara's asking if they could get a copy of the slides. Barbara, we're going to be sending out a recording of this. Um, so you would actually see all the slides in that recording if that would work for you.
Yeah, and Ronnie, I'm happy to send you those, and if you want to post them under, you can, whatever you want to do.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll follow up with you afterwards then, and we can go ahead and send those out as well. Um, let's see. We got a couple other questions in here. Do you have any example courses in health and wellness space?
I do. So we just did, let me grab this link for you. We did a case study recently with I think it's called the Fit Father Project. And even though it's kind of for dads, I think it applies equally to everybody, meaning anything in health and wellness, because the concepts and the principles he's using to, to sell, to motivate, the way he's designed his programs, I think are just health and fitness kind of standards. I'm just looking for the video. So let me share my screen for a second. I'm on Memberium.com and I went over to just under documentation of video tutorials. Right under these basics, there are some of these. So this is the Fit Father Project. And like I said, it's a fitness walkthrough. The cool thing about these case studies is we're talking to the owner about the business as he's showing us through his site and telling you what software he uses, what customizations they did, why they made these decisions, what mistakes they made, what they would do differently next time. And that's all these. So they're a case study. Infusionsoft themselves uses Memberium. That's a case study in there, but I want to say there's a couple other health related ones. I'm just trying to look through and remember which is which, because sometimes our videos focus on the functionality, not the niche. But if you look through these, especially that one you'd really like, I'm sure, you'll see quite a bit about it.
Okay, so if a person is not using Infusionsoft, will Memberium work? So Antonio, he said it integrated also with ActiveCampaign if you're using ActiveCampaign. But Micah, is there any other uses if you're not using either of those?
No, just Infusionsoft and ActiveCampaign. And in that case, that's where I'd say go look at LearnDash or Wishlist, or even a combination of those.
Perfect. That looks like those are all the questions. But for everybody who's still on, if you had any questions that didn't get answered, feel free to email me. My email is Ronnie, RONNIE, @plusthis.com. And I'd be more than happy to follow up with Micah, or if I can handle the questions myself. Or like Micah said earlier, feel free to visit Memberium.com. They have an amazing support staff who'd be able to help you as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ronnie.
Absolutely. Thank you, Micah. And thanks everybody for joining us today. And I will have the recording out by tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. And everybody have a great rest of your afternoon.